Mr. DeBarry again, if he's gone. I don't have any problems with that.
Voting delegate?
Pretty much meaningless, really. We vote once or so.
That is the gentleman's name who works at Proclamations, and he's been doing all the work.
What is it?
That's his name, who does all the work.
Oh, okay, this kid?
This is a guy. He's a
Okay.
gentleman, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
You?
appreciate that.
Aye.
Indeed.
It's gonna be a long time.
Let's not make it.
How are you today?
We approved everything. This is
Pretty good.
We just gotta.
Keeping you busy.
If we're changing it, it's gonna do a turnaround.
Yes.
Everything's in there, those changed.
Monday I can.
And there's
No, you got things. Yeah, you got things to do. I ain't too worried.
Did you get a financial person offered and accepted?
Yes. And we'll do the announcement this week.
Awesome, good. That'll help your load. Yeah. Yeah. Where from?
It's from Wyoming.
These are the only ones that went
Raleigh?
No,
Was he the Buffalo guy?
but he's currently in, but he's worked in Wyoming, so
Good.
understands, but knows Rome as well.
We need that.
Yeah.
We joined the meeting yet?
Actually.
You did?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Maybe
Oh,
I
yeah.
need to refresh.
Did you, go to the top and click the down?
Never mind. Good.
I was like halfway through and said, what's I didn't have the little.
Yeah, I was like, there we go. So we did.
Then he said, I'm really good at hydraulics.
What do we got, 3, 2?
Night study. Guys to do some. Could be
Yeah, I think you're gonna see a little bit here, this one for sure. Then boy, the proclamations. Then these, the board of presidents. I think that's a lot of this part. And then I think this section, your ordinance, that verse 7.
That's something. Are we ready? All right, I'll call this meeting to order at 7:30. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Keep moving it around. I know, it's fine.
I should have seen it last week. They were all over here.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Yes. Mayor Terry Wycombe,
Here.
Vice Mayor Jacqueline Wells,
Here.
Councilmember Aaron Durst. Thank you. Councilmember Darrell Gardner,
Here.
Councilmember Davari Martinez.
Here.
Councilmember Linda Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Chris Weisenberg.
Here.
All right, thank you. Next thing on the agenda is the agenda. Vice Mayor Wells.
I move to approve the May 3rd, 2002 City Council agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve the May 3rd, 2002 City Council agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open.
Yes.
Thank you. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. Next thing on our agenda is to approve the minutes of April 14th. Do I hear a motion? Councilman Martinez?
Members of the council, I'll make a motion to approve the city council special council meeting minutes of April 14th, 2022 as presented or amended.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve the city council special council meeting minutes of April 14th, 2022 as presented. Is there any discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas and 1 abstain. Vice Mayor Wells abstained.
All right, thank you. Next thing on our agenda is to approve another set of minutes. Councilman Smith?
I move to approve the city council regular meeting minutes of April 19th, 2022 as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve the city council regular meeting minutes of April 19th, 2022 as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas and 1 abstain. Vice Mayor Wells abstained.
All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is a discussion item. It's the water report, and I will turn the floor over to the Rollins City staff.
Honorable Mayor, Council, just kind of give a quick update with our folks here on basically our water system right now, where we're at. So none of us really want to be where we're at right now. This is kind of heartbreaking to everybody. We're just trying to get a hold of it sooner than later. We don't want to get into another water crisis like we did a little while back. And so we all know what that was like, and I think that, you know, if it happens this summer, it might even be a longer water crisis, just for the fact that it might take longer for the tanks to fill than it did last time. So what we've been looking at for coming from the springs right now, we're currently flowing about 1.5 million gallons a day into town from the springs, and we're pushing about 1.15 into town for usage. So to date, on May 2nd of last year, we were bringing in from the springs 2.18 million gallons a day. So we're about 700,000 gallons less than we were at May 2nd last year as of this year. And due to the snowpack out there, we're assuming that's a lot of the reason why, between 2 years of really bad snowpack in our Sage Creek Basin, is probably a good reason why we're having this loss of water. We have been repairing the leaks like we have been all summer, or all winter long, I mean, you know, but we're still, the flows are down. There's no visible leaks. We're watching very closely on our transmission line. It's just, we just don't have the flows that we had last year, which was a bad year for us. We all know that. So we're just trying to be really proactive right now and trying to get us to a spot where, you know, we don't get into another crisis mode and, you know, people are having to boil water or not being able to take showers. We'd rather give people water and try to figure out the lawn as we go, or the irrigations as we go. I'll kind of let Austin and Andrea talk to the points of what we're planning as far as infrastructure rebuilds and basically our plans for the future. I'll let them get into this a little bit.
Great, thank you, Cody. Honorable Mayor, Council, thank you for hearing us out. So as far as the current status of our construction project, we're at the 7,300 feet of the 10,000 to get the 18-inch line in place at the Sage Creek Basin Springs. Currently, we're struggling with rock and other differing site conditions, things of that matter, where we may have to do a change order for the rock that was been encountered on site. We have mud season on us right now, so it's very difficult to perform the work. So production's slow, very slow. We have now started from the top side, and we're starting to work from the top down to the project site, and that will hopefully help get the project moving to where we're able to get that completed by mid-June is my hope. But it's difficult to say. With our contractor, they're doing everything they can. They're having just a very difficult time right now, both on the business side and personally. So there's a lot of different struggles that we're going through on the project, but it's not contributing to the loss of water that we're seeing right now from the springs. So with that, we're trying to come up with solutions to get us back on track so that we don't enter into another water crisis, and that would involve the pretreatment plant. We're hoping to get the pretreatment plant project started early July, if not sooner, with a team of specialists to get the plant back online so that we're able to build, be able to produce water where we can irrigate and get back on track. And that's the hope. And so that RFP will be out. We're going to receive the proposals on the 12th, and I'm going to do everything I can to expedite the selection process to get that going forward as soon as possible to help us in this situation. But at this time, under most circumstances, we're looking at having that completed, started in late July. And by that time, we'll be in a position where we may have already had our water crisis. And frankly, I think that the position that we're in right now requires us to think outside the box and to look at our ordinance, to look at the water ordinance, to see what we can do to limit use as much as possible so that we have drinking water that we need to survive, to make this town live. We need water to live, and we're going to do everything we can to get to that point. But I think looking at the ordinance is one thing that we should do. But I do believe that we're in a very dire situation right now. In my professional opinion, if you take into consider our current use and the water restricted use from last year, and you use that rate of consumption, we'll be out of water sometime between mid and late June. Again, at another low pressure situation, which is why we needed to enact the level D water restrictions immediately to prevent that. Our uses have been going up about 5% per day since the 29th of April. So we are starting to see substantial increase in use across the city. So does anybody have any questions for me?
We'll think of some in a few minutes.
Thank you. Andrea, would you like to speak?
Sure, for a moment. I just know that there's a lot of citizens here today, and the council is aware of what we're working on. But not only is the staff in the field working diligently out in the mud and the cold, trying to repair these problems, but staff here in City Hall, too, is working to pursue funding opportunities. I wanted to let the citizens know that we do have 6 grants in right now that are under consideration for helping fund this project, and we're proactively pursuing 3 more. So we're really trying to get a handle on getting the money to be able to fund this.
Do you have,
Just a minute, Councilman Smith.
yes, Andrea, could you tell me in my mind, I know the strategy is replace and repair, and then long-term is to replace all of the pipeline. Now, I was thinking of where all the grant money deadlines fall, and that will determine what we can do to get funding. So sometime I'd like to visit with you about when the ARPA funds are due and when there's other deadlines that we were looking at. to kind of fill out which one we need to do and what's better for us.
That would
I'm
be
sorry.
great, and we actually had conversation today about putting together a graph for the council for what money's available, what the terms are, how long the grant lasts, how much it's for, when it's due, what it can be used for.
Thank
So
you.
we will have that ready for you by next council meeting.
I
Is that what we
appreciate that.
decided? Next council meeting? Or maybe the one after. But Councilwoman Smith, I'd be happy to meet with you to go over these at any time.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like me to go into project details? Okay, great. All right. So what we're looking at is a multi-phased approach, and it depends on which grants we go after. Some grants restrict you from being able to use or to go after water distribution. So the project that we considered during our last discussion, where we have the ductile iron line, that would be water distribution. So it may or may not be allowed by WWDC. So that may affect the overall total budget for the project if we go after WWDC. So with that, we have a multi-phased approach. So the first phase that we would have is what we're constructing right now. What's out in the field. It's phase 1 of the Sage Creek Basin Springs, the 10,000 feet of transmission line. The second phase would be to repair, replace all of the spring boxes that we have, all the concrete vaults, all of the wood stave that's in the ground, that's out there in the springs, to install meters, fencing for protection, to keep out livestock from getting into our vaults and contaminating our water. And then the third phase would be where we have, let's see, I don't have the phasing in front of me at this moment, but effectively we have the cathodic protection for the transmission line, the blow-off valves, and the air release valves. And that project could be done simultaneously with phase 2. And then finally we have the ductile iron line, which would be the $2 million project, which can also be done simultaneously. And that's the ductile iron pipe that goes from the water treatment plant to Spruce Street. There are potentially some leaks in that line. I know that the report we discussed last time actually indicated that the total amount of leak was directly related to the ductile iron pipe, but it's actually related to, it goes from the meters, from each meter in town to the water treatment plant. So it's not just the ductile iron line where we're losing water, and we're not accounting for about 1/3 of our water each day at this time.
Vice Mayor Wells?
Where are we realistically with the Sixpenny project of bringing the raw water to the city?
Okay, so the project has been awarded for design. Realistically, construction wouldn't begin until next year.
And we're talking about the one at the cemetery?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's upwards of 1 million gallons a day usage
Yes.
when we're not under restrictions, obviously.
Correct. Yes. And so, please.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just was looking at this. So with your phases up to phase 3, through phase 3 and replacement of the ductile pipe iron, that's 2.1 million basically, and then we need for the valves protection and air release valves, we need 4.5 million, correct?
I can't recall the exact number.
Your figures?
Our figures vary, but
Okay.
based on that spreadsheet that I supplied, it's fairly accurate.
So I'm just trying to wrap my mind of how we structure the financing in the budget.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. And then finally, we'd have the tank farm replacement, which those tanks, I believe, are 7.5 million gallons each. And with those, we're looking at going to a lower volume to improve water quality that's distributed and also have a higher level of reliability. That would be the final phase.
Okay.
phases 2 through 4 can be done simultaneously. And the final phase, the tanks would have to be final on a separate construction season in order to avoid any kind of trouble where we end up in a low pressure situation.
So the 7,500 feet of the 10,000, once the other 2,500 feet are done, will that improve our water availability or water that comes to town?
Potentially. It's an unknown factor, but it may improve it. I was observing the vaults yesterday. I was not impressed by the flows that I was seeing coming into the vaults. It's just, frankly, we are in a low water year with the call on the river and the drought that we're in, the 70% snowpack. It's having an impact on our current volumes.
Councilman Garner?
On the pretreatment plant, what were the rates we could get out of that if we had that up and running?
I believe 4 to 4.5 million gallons per day.
And the RFP process is what's holding us up from starting that sooner than later, right?
Yes, sir.
So if I don't know if we can speed up the process, but if we could speed up the RFP and get that online, would that be in our best interest for that? So it's not July.
What would keep us from speeding that up? Might be a good question.
I'm not sure if the emergency declaration covers the pretreatment. That would be a question for legal. And I don't know if there's any legal requirement to.
I think I may, and please confirm, but I know at one point we did an emergency declaration to be able to speed things up. I think that's probably our only viable option, to be able to do something like that.
That's the only way we'd be able to accelerate it, otherwise we're stuck with the statutory requirements for advertising and timelines.
How much would that speed us up?
Probably 2 months.
We should do that.
I think with talking with Austin though, I think if we bypass some of this, we could run into a problem of not having a contractor that's reliable and everything else, because you don't go out to bid at that point in time. You just pick your contractor pretty much.
Yeah. We found 2 or 3 firms that are interested in doing the work for the pretreatment plant, and they're very interested. They're reliable consultants. They're professional services that we're seeking after. It's a question of the competitive process, and a lot of times with a competitive process you see the best of your consultants, and it may be valuable, but we're also on a timeline where days count.
Well, we're still going to let it out to bid, right? It's just going to be accelerated. Is
So-
that correct or not?
It's an interesting one, and so
Alright.
the work, instead of having a contractor do this work, we're looking for professionals to come help us get it started. We're not looking for construction. It won't be a construction bid process. This is just an RFP process for professional services. So
it'd
with
be
that,
like by the hour or whatever?
right, yeah, so it's professional fees on a fee schedule, and we'll have a professional engineer where we have an operator and assistants on for the first 30 days, helping our operators get the plant online where it's operating and functional.
So, I know part of the downside to not doing it that way, but what other downside would there be to speeding it up? I mean,
We've been cutting corners for quite a while, and I'll be honest, right now I am suffering quite a bit on this project that's on the Sage Creek Basin, because we cut a lot of corners getting to the contract where just a lot of things were on a handshake or a discussion or something like that, where we've got a lot of change orders and there's a lot of unknowns, and just giving our consultants the time. My suggestion is We give our consultants the time. They're going to submit their proposal on the 12th of May, which is in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, 10 days. And at that time, we can do a consultant selection and expedite that consultant selection. I don't know that we may have to consult with the city attorney and see if those dates are required by state statute where we have a certain award period. But we could award potentially the very day after. Is it 14 days statutorily? So then we'd be looking at, the 26th.
Councilman Smith?
We're already filling the reservoirs with the river water right now, correct?
Correct.
But it's the turbidity that we are having the problem with, and that's where we get into the DEQ compliance issues. So I'm thinking if so we don't have enough water from Nugget Wells and Sage Creek yet to mix and blend the water for the treatment plant to make that DEQ compliant. So I think anything we can do with the pre-treatment plant, including getting that 5th filter, and I think that's in the works, and I won't elaborate on that, but that would increase the water treatment that would be flowing into the community and the distribution lines. And I think that would go a long way. We have plenty of water rights. We just have turbidity that is unacceptable. So I think that's all what we do is if we focus on that, maybe that's a council decision, I suppose. But and then go after what we think is the leaking line. But in that project with the pre-treatment plant, there was something that you said was leaking too, and we'd need to fix that. So I think that would be a good plan.
It's interesting that you say that we're having turbidity issues. Truly speaking,